Hello and welcome to Gamers Ledge. We have a very special treat for you today. We are doing an interview with Daniel Hinkles from Serious Parody, who is the creator of Five Star Wrestling coming to the PlayStation Network. Joining me today, as always, we have Neo Sapien.
Howdy,
Matt.
folks.
And we have Dave Burgundy.
Good morning.
And then, of course, the man of the hour himself, Daniel Hinkles.
Howdy.
Very good. So Daniel, we've all heard about Five Star Wrestling, and of course, several of us at our site are huge fans of wrestling and very excited about the game. We've got a few questions, and I think Dave's going to start us off with the first one.
Sure. First of all, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate that. I guess we'll just start off with the softball. For people who may not have heard of you guys yet, who and what is Serious Parody, and what is your background?
So Serious Parody is a games development company that we set up specifically to make wrestling games. Our first title was Wrestling Manager on the iPhone and the iPad, and for the last couple of years we've been working really hard on the upcoming PlayStation 3 title, Five Star Wrestling. So that's us. We're based in Dundee, Scotland, so it's quite late at night here, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm sounding tired or if I'm looking a little drained. That's why. But yeah, that's us. We've been working. There's about 17 of us at the minute. We've been on this for a couple of years now, and we're so close to getting this product out, and I can't wait to show everybody.
Let me tell you, I played Wrestling Manager. I downloaded it last week, and I literally lost 2 entire days of my life to it. So kudos to you. That's really a great booking simulator. I haven't seen anything else quite like it. So what is Five Star Wrestling then? So
Five Star Wrestling is it's a 3D wrestling game in the same kind of vein as the WWE games or the TNA game or any game that's guys fighting it out in a wrestling match, but this is more targeted towards sort of really hardcore wrestling game fans, because we care about things that the casual market just wouldn't care about, for example, one of the things that we do that no other wrestling game's ever done is we've got this limb damage system where if you take a guy's leg out, he will struggle to be able to lift you up to do his move. So if you remember Triple H versus Brock Lesnar in the cage, and the match was all about taking out Brock's knee, and then he couldn't hit the F5, and when he went for it, his knee crumbled and down he goes, kind of thing. Well, we've got a very similar system to that, where if they go to try and lift you up and the knee crumbles, then you're back on the attack, and that is a thing that only core wrestling game fans are ever going to care about. It's not something that's going to sell the casual guy on it. It's not a big name brand associated with the game or anything. But it's something that wrestling fans have wanted for ages. I've wanted it for years, and we're finally bringing it.
Great. We look forward to it.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I can appreciate that. Fan of several different genres, and most recently, like the Marvel movies. I'm a huge Marvel geek, so all the little things and all the Marvel movies that are tossed in for people like me, I appreciate that, so I understand the concept. However, I am not a hardcore wrestling or a hardcore wrestling gaming fan. I try to play a little bit of everything, and I really appreciate that. And knowing that you guys are going for that hardcore wrestling group, is there any feature that you think would attract in someone who's not necessarily, doesn't have anything against wrestling, but that's not the first game that they would reach out and grab in the aisle?
Well, I think you have to be at least a fighting game fan. If you can't play wrestling games or fighting games because they're just not in, then we're not for you. But if you are a fighting game fan, just imagine that you was playing Street Fighter, and somebody's constantly spamming. They're using Ken, and they're constantly going for the Dragon Punch all the time. And they do that because it's easy and it gets you and it looks good and it feels good. But they get you in it repeatedly. Well, now imagine that you break their arm, and now every time they go for that move, you you can laugh at them, you know. You're like, what on earth are you doing now? They're there holding their arm, crying, can't do a move. You're on the attack again. So it's that element of strategy that's never been. It's not just that it's never been in a wrestling game. It's never been in a fighting game, or at least one that I found. I'm sure there's some obscure one somewhere that I've never heard of. But if there is, somebody please send me a link because I've never seen it. So that's the kind of thing that I would hope would attract a fighting game fan. Plus, you know, we've got this whole thing of every character in our game is very unique to themselves. They don't just have a huge moves list that's unique to them. They also have, you know, like a reason to use one specific wrestler versus another. So, for example, we have Ragnarok the Conqueror, who is this really big beast of a guy, and then we have Curtis Angel, who is this, you know, strategic wrestler, and it's kind of like the Ali versus Tyson of the wrestling world, where you've got the guy going, okay, he's bigger than me and stronger than me. How am I going to beat him? But you know, equally, if you're using Ragnarok and you've got all these big powerful moves and you get them in there first, and you know, there's a reason to play as you. It's because you're so big, powerful. All your moves are going to do some serious damage. So that's something that we bring, is fighting games where, you know, you can have a reason to play as each character. That's, I would hope, again, something that would attract other people. But like I said, this is very targeted for wrestling fans. Truth be told, if you're not a wrestling fan, you should probably pick something else up.
Well, that I can appreciate that, though, because there's, especially myself, not being that good at it, but trying to do games right. I hate nothing more than someone that's just bashing the buttons on the console or the controller or something, and they're just taking you out because all they're doing is just mashing the buttons. So I can definitely appreciate something that requires a little more thought and strategy to it.
Great stuff. So, yeah, I mean, we tried to eliminate that as well, by the way, just the, you know, the button mashing technique stuff. Our grapple system is analog stick based, and sure, you could try waggling it, but it's not going to get you anywhere. You really need to know what you're doing. So, anyway.
All right, I have the next question. We've had a lot of success with the iOS, making a game for that for like basically mobile platforms. What have you seen, or what kind of challenges have you faced when moving the development to an actual console platform?
You know, I mean, making a game is very much the same no matter what platform you're making it on. Each platform's got a little bit of a challenge. Like, you know, the PlayStation 3's got a small amount of memory compared to some of the more modern systems, and that's been very challenging for us. You know, we're trying to fit in so many moves, and each character's got more moves than pretty much any wrestling game ever before. And trying to fit all them in is just so hard. But you know, we had memory problems on the early game of Wrestling Manager because that was huge. You know, it had 500 characters, and you know, we really did cram a lot into that game. There was a lot of art. There was a lot of processing that needed to be done. So, you know, making a game is just really about getting good people around you who know what they're doing, and that's thankfully what we was able to do.
Well, I know I've monitored the boards and the Facebook page for a long time, and as a dev team that's building a game from the ground up, does the team sometimes get frustrated by the fact that fans seem to want everything and the kitchen sink in version 1.0? You guys have to see it as a challenge to grow over time, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I think we're all frustrated because we all want everything right away. You know, we would love to have every feature in our dream wish list. You know, if we could, we would. But you know, we are over the course of the last 2 years, we've been between 15 and 17 people. That's not a big team, especially for this kind of a game. So we have to be selective of what features we put in. We have to make sure that every feature is justified because there's so many features that we want that we can't have, that we have to pick them as much as we can. You know, we have to be very specific with what we get. I can't tell you how many days do I get asked, will there be a create character? It is by far the most requested thing that we get. we knew that was going to happen. We absolutely knew it was going to happen because it's the first thing we wanted to do. We would have loved to have just built the creator character and built the game around it. Unfortunately, if we'd have done that, we wouldn't have had the game that we've got now, you know, and we didn't just want to make a game that had, say, 20 moves per character or something. You know, we set our bar really high on what we wanted to do there, because what's the point in having a really good creator character if you can't do any moves? You know, if you guys got like 20 moves or something, you need to have the wrestling in place first and then build that. If we had 200 guys like other big studios do, you know, we would have absolutely have gone for them kind of features. So it's equally as frustrating for us, but at the same time it's promising because it means that the guys know that you know, we've got something to shoot for going forward. We know that we want to work on create a character. If we get the game out, this is the beauty of where we are now. If we get this game out on the PlayStation, everybody that buys our game will be connected to the internet. So that means anyone can download any update that we send out. There's nothing stopping us, once we've got the game right, building create a character. So that's kind of what we're hoping to do. You know, now obviously we need to see what fans say once they've got the game in their hands. Like, maybe that's all of a sudden not the most requested feature once people actually play it. We really need to listen to what they say, because they will tell us how to make the game better. They're the ones that are playing it. So it's exciting for us, but yeah, every now and then we kind of like, come on, man, you know, we're small. Please just give us a break, you know. But I would sooner hear them say we want this extra feature than them not say it, because then I know what they want, you know, and that's very important to us.
The good thing is the internet's always lenient, so.
And on that thread of a continual improvement in building on the games, and you know, as a project manager, I can appreciate what you guys are going through on what do you include, what don't you include, you know, prioritizing resources and stuff. But as far as DLC, I know you guys have talked about DLC and wanting to look forward to expanding stuff through downloadable content. And right now, we know that you're looking for characters, but are there also going to be other types of downloadable content? Are you building the hooks in for that, for like different venues, Minitron entrances, theme songs, that type of stuff?
Yeah, we're really hoping to expand on it in every which way possible. Our plan is to do a little bit of everything to start with and see what people really like. So, for example, if we make a couple of characters and put them out there, but hardly anybody downloads them, but we make a match type and everybody downloads them, then we know that people want more match types. So we will skewer that direction. Likewise, you know, like I said, the create a character feature would want to put in new arenas. There's all kinds of... There's no game that I can think of like a wrestling game where you could expand on it for as long as you want, adding new features. I mean, if you only have to look at, say, the Wikipedia match type link, and you'll see there's like 1,000 match types in wrestling. You know, you can make one up on the spot. You know, instead of having tables, ladders, and chairs, you could have tables, ladders, and stairs, and that's a new match type, right? I'm not saying that's a particularly innovative match type, but you know, there's so many things you can do, and there's so many things that have never been done in a wrestling game before. Can you imagine, I don't know, cattle prod on a pole match or something, right? Which is just, it's never been done. There's probably a reason it's never been done, I don't know, but to me, like, do you remember when Scott Hall was in the NWO and
Absolutely.
And he was, you know, he was electrocuting everybody here, there, and everywhere. There's a bit of fun in that, you know. If you play any game where there's an ability to electrocute somebody, there's fun that you can have there. And that's never been done in a wrestling game, so we'd love to have that. Is it top of our priority list? Maybe not. You know, there's some more requested features that we want to give. But our goal is to not just add features that you find in other wrestling games. We want to add new experiences, because you can go play a cage match in just about every wrestling game ever made. So, you know, is that really something that you need to have in every wrestling game? Of course we do. We want it eventually. But does that take priority over something else? We'll have to wait and see. So I hope that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay, I guess I have the next one here. The PS3, you can store your own music on it. Is there any plans to have that as like something as a day one feature? Is that easy to do? So you can
It,
like do your own entrance music?
it's not something we're going to be doing at launch. It's not something we've investigated just yet, to be honest. We would love to have it. I think the guys that we've got music, I don't know if you've heard any of the snippets that were released of the entrance music, but we're quite proud of them. They're pretty cool little parody stuff. But I do know that wrestling fans really want that kind of thing. Um, I think for us, when we start to add features like edit features and stuff, that's when that stuff will come. But it really is a case of using our resources to decide which things we need to do as a priority, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
So
So
no.
so when you have been building it, we understand that making a game is work. You try to do what you love, but still, there's a lot of work and effort, especially for a small team going into building a 3D full environment game. So what's been your biggest like that's so cool like breakthrough moment in making this game?
There's been so many. I love seeing the game come together. Just so you know, I'm not a programmer. I'm not an artist. I'm not an animator. Uh, I designed the features and along with my design team and things, and seeing them features come to life is always amazing to me. And sometimes you see something come to life and you go, well, actually, it looks better on paper than it did there. We better tweak that here and there. But I guess the biggest moment for me was when the AI reversed one of my finishers into their own finisher, and then they was too tired to get up off the mat. So it was like a moment of, oh my god, that worked so well. Because that's wrestling for you right there. One guy's going for his finisher, the AI just fluidly, because I don't know if you've seen our finisher reversal system, but like guys can literally take, say the tempting fate, which is Greg Harty's finishing move in 5-star, and you can just seemingly have that turned into the RAO, which is Raging Andy Organ's finishing move in the game. And it's one animation. It's not like stop and then the guy has to activate it. It's just seamless. It looks beautiful when it happens. But then to have that and then for them to both stay down after, it was just a genuine wrestling moment of, holy shit, that's good. So, I was chuffed when I saw it.
So we know that you guys are hardcore wrestling fans, and since you're working on a wrestling video game, one of the things I wanted to ask you is more about the lineage of games that you've played in the past, because I know that I've seen you say on other boards that you played the SmackDown series and No Mercy. No Mercy, of course, being one of the greatest wrestling games of all times. But I was curious if you, and I actually, after we started talking about this originally, I started thinking about it. I actually think it was a sequel to WrestleMania 2000, but it was a Japanese import called Virtual Pro Wrestling. Did you guys ever happen to import or play that particular game?
Yeah, I've played Virtual Pro Wrestling. The original Virtual Pro Wrestling came long before the WrestleMania 2000 and stuff. There was a PlayStation version, and then over time there was an N64 version, and then there was Pro Wrestling 2, Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, and I loved the MMA mode on that. I thought that was really cool what they did there. That was my all-time favorite series by far. Is the Aki series of games, if you like. I don't necessarily class them as individual series amongst themselves because
Sure.
they're all very clearly the and yeah, I had to play them because as soon as I found out there was an MMA mode and it wasn't just the same game with different characters, I absolutely needed to play it. So I've spent some good hours on that with some friends, and what a fantastic series. I just wish there was still more of them.
Well, hopefully, 5-Star Wrestling will be the new.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what every developer says when they're making a wrestling game. So try so hard not to be that guy, you know. Like we
That's what I
look.
kind of like about it. It seems like you're kind of blending stuff from like that series of games, from the Aki series of games, and a series that I like called Fire Pro Wrestling, which has the just tons of moves and everything. Even though it's 2D, it's completely different as far as that goes. But they had a lot in there about like working matches and the psychology and everything. So the stuff that you're trying to put in there seems to be like like blending of that. So that's why I'm personally really excited for it.
I mean, it's good to hear that that's coming through as well. I mean, I've been a wrestling game fan for as long as I can remember. I was a wrestling game fan before I was a wrestling fan, as crazy as that sounds. Somebody bought me one of the wrestling games for my birthday, and I kind of looked at it and went, I'm not really into wrestling, why have you done this? But they knew I was a fighting game fan. Um, and not that I was a spoiled child, I didn't like throw in the face, this is wrestling, terrible. I wasn't like that, but it was more like, why have you done this kind of thing? And then as soon as I played it, that was it. I was hooked, and I've always been hooked ever since. And now I'm 20 years later building my own wrestling games. That's how hooked I was. So I've played as many games as I could get my hands on, be it the Japanese imports. Who hasn't played Fire Pro? It's such a good game. There's so many different things in that game that I get that a lot of people look at it and go, oh, it's 2D. That's very old graphic-wise. It looks horrible, that kind of thing. I personally like the style of it. I don't think it does look horrible, but I get the comment. But the amount of moves in that game is unreal. And just like when you download a save that's got 500 characters on it, and you go, holy hell, I can do whatever I want here. That was one of the mark-out moments for me. So we tried to bring in as many influences from as many games as we can, just because we've seen them, we know them, we like them. Some games do some things better than others, and we've tried to cherry pick them, and at the same time put our own sort of our own slant on some of these features too. So, for example, we've got the momentum system that you'll all be familiar with from the Aki games, and we've got this momentum swing system that was in there, and they had a way for the character to come back, because that's very wrestling. But we've kind of put a different slant on it ourselves, and it's quite rewarding in a match when you've been taking a beating for a while and you pull off a reversal and then you start coming back and your momentum's going up faster and faster and faster. It just feels very much like a wrestling game should feel. So I forgot what the original question was, but I hope I answered it.
You did. It was about the imports. So yeah.
I definitely have played, yeah.
Yes, awesome.
So, changing gears just a little bit, we're all lifelong video game players, and we've come to think we know something about the industry a little bit, and we all understand how release dates go. So, not asking you to release any information that you're not ready or comfortable to release, but are you feeling kind of alpha-ish, beta-ish?
So we're calling it internal beta. The game's finished. We've got a lot of. I say finished. There's a lot of testing that needs doing, and a lot of polish that we're trying to add to it. So, in terms of animation and things like that, we've got a team of guys trying to make the animation smoother, trying to make some of the transitions a little nicer and things like that. But it's in a state where you can fully play the matches, and so we're not putting any more features in as such. We're just fine tuning the ones that we've got right now. So that's where we are. I couldn't possibly give you a release date because until we are satisfied with the game, then we can't push the button.
No, but that makes me very excited that you guys are at least it's feature ready and ready to go. That's huge, and I just makes me more excited for the game. Now, because we are a gaming site, I am going to attempt to confuse you now by asking no gaming questions whatsoever, and instead posing a very serious philosophical wrestling question to you. And that question is, ECW television champ RVD versus Triple Crown TNA champion AJ Styles. Not this match they had at TNA a couple years ago that was horrible, but back both of them when they were in their prime, who would win?
Okay, so for a long time, when RVD was untouchable in terms of what he could do in the ring, right? I mean, that guy was amazing in ECW. He's still amazing. He's still one of my favorite wrestlers today. I absolutely love watching his matches. He never got the push that I wanted him to get. I mean, I know he had the belt, but there's so much potential in there that he could have done, and I just wanted him to. But for whatever reason, it never happened, or at least not the way that I wanted it to. Who would win? I don't know. AJ's had some, amazing matches too. But for me, it would be RVD. That time in ECW, he was untouchable. He was the guy that everybody needed to wrestle against, and everybody should have got.
That is the correct answer. I'm going to continue to.
Yeah, I was just trying to say that's the correct answer. So this interview can continue.
AJ's in Japan now, right?
He's still, actually, I think he's still in TNA, but I think he does Japan on the side. I'm not sure if he's wholly dedicated to TNA or if he's doing both now.
Right. It's been about a month since I've had a chance to sit down and watch TNA, maybe longer even. But I could have sworn.
I'm not sure if you're missing much.
Yeah.
That was rude. I'm sorry. I'm in Philly. We get like Ring of Honor all the time. I mean, we're spoiled over here.
Yeah.
I was at WrestleMania 27, and the Ring of Honor shows, both of them that weekend, was by far the best shows of the week. And I saw a ton of wrestling shows that week, and I've been to a couple of WrestleManias since then. I always make sure to go see the Ring of Honor event. It is just always amazing. I absolutely love that live. The crowd are the best kind of wrestling crowd you can possibly get in there. Wrestling's always, it's Ring of Honor. It's where the champions are made, right? So, but TNA's got some good stuff. So,
They do.
But they're okay. No, it's okay. We don't have to lie. It'll make them better.
Well, anyway, every wrestler on the internet was saying, get rid of Hogan. Hogan has to go. Get rid of him completely. They got rid of Hogan. The ratings have gone straight down. That's what I mean. So what was the wrestling fans talking about on the internet all of a sudden?
Oh, those smart marks.
Oh, let me knock them off. They're the guys I need for this game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I just, you know what I'm saying, right?
No, we understand completely. We're just having to go at you.
I have no idea what you guys have been talking about for the last 10 minutes.
That's all right.
I actually recognized AJ Styles. That one I recognize. Everything else you've said has been.
I guess I'll pick up the questions. Aside from the limb damage, what's the one feature you're most excited about in your game?
The finisher reversals is just something that's long been needed in wrestling games. You try to go for a punt kick using Raging Andy Orton, and Johnny the Bull Maivia spins out the back and then catches you in a rock bottom. Not a rock bottom, a jabroni drop. Right. And it's just amazing to see it when it happens. Again, especially for me as a player, I'm playing it now all the time. But when I see the AI reverse me like that, and I'm not expecting it, and they catch me with it, and I'm like, oh my god, that was good. Every single time do I think, yeah, that's a feature that people are gonna love. Other than that, we've got so many moves per wrestler. It's staggering, really. I mean, if you compare some of the games that have come before us, especially like their first efforts, I mean, if you was to look at Aki's first effort or the Ukes' first efforts, and you was to put it up against what we're bringing to the market here, It's not even close, and that's not me trying to be arrogant there. I'm just saying, there's. I think in Yuke's first game, he had about 20 moves, and we've got some characters with 100 and. I always get this number wrong, but I think it's about 165 or a little bit more than that, maybe. And that's just more than other wrestling games. No Mercy had 153 animation moves per character. And we've got more than No Mercy had, which was, one of them games. That was one of the reasons No Mercy was so good, is because of the amount of moves that you had per character. The SmackDown games had, for the longest time, right up until something like 2009, they had about 80 moves per character, and we've got double that. So to me, that in itself is a statement of where, this is where we're starting as well. We're going to be adding more as we go along. So I think, as a wrestling fan, that's something that I hope the wrestling fans enjoy. And then there's lots of little details and stuff as well. So like, if you do a move on the outside, like a DDT on the outside, it's going to hurt them more than a DDT in the ring. Just stuff like that, loads of little nerdy things that I love about it. Hopefully people do. So.
Well, that's exactly what I like to hear, because I tend to just drag people out of the ring and do DDTs and pile drivers on them. Is the neck a damageable limb? I just want to know.
Yeah, everything's damageable. This is, again, the leg damage system is more evolved than the other things. But when I say the neck, I mean the head, not just the neck. So.
Okay. Awesome.
There's not much we could do if you just injured somebody's neck other than,
It's like, they just start twitching on the mat, and it's like, ooh, that's just uncomfortable. We don't like that.
I can't turn my head. So, you talked earlier about some of the challenges, most notably every developer's programmer's nightmare, memory management. But was there anything in development that you thought was going to be easy but turned really hard, or you thought was going to be really hard but turned out, oh, well, that was easy, now, okay, let's go do this other thing?
The whole game. Wrestling is just so ridiculously hard to make, and there were so many times where I was just like, "Come on now, that's got to be really easy." I'm not a programmer here, so when I want a feature, and I'll fight my corner for the feature, and I'm like, "Look, we really have to have that," and the guys will say to me, "Dan, that's not half an hour's work. That's like a week," and I'll be like, "But it's a really cool feature. We need, what do you mean it's a week? That doesn't look like a week to me." But look, no, I'm telling you, that's a week, and it's a week plus testing. It's not just a week, and it's things like that you just. I'm trying to think of a specific example. Nothing's really jumping out of me, but there has been so many times where it's been something that I thought would be something small that has not. A good example might be the system that we have that counts how long a guy spends on the floor when you've damaged them. So you've just done a move, and the guy's on the floor. How long does he stay down? And that's something that there isn't really a right or wrong answer to. Like if you are late in the match and you do a move, you would expect the guy to stay down longer. But you wouldn't want to base it just on the time that the match has gone, because what if the guy's not really taking any damage? So you try and base it a bit on the damage stuff, and then they go, okay, well, he's really damaged, but he hasn't taken a move for so long. So there's all kinds of trees that you have to put into of what that formula is going to be, and sometimes you go, right, and you do this big long formula, and then you hit the move, and you go, you know what, though, still not getting up quick enough, or he's not down long enough. So you start thinking, right, well, maybe if we judge it on the power of the move as well. So then you try and add something on the end of it, and by adding something on the end of it, you forget that you've got a submission. So one of the things that we did was we said, right, we're going to add an extra couple of seconds if the move is over a certain amount of damage, and we're going to work it out on I'm getting really complicated here. I'm hoping.
No, but I love this. I love the inside baseball stuff when it comes to this kind of thing, like how much thought that goes into it, because it just shows, like you're really trying to like look at. I mean, you're obviously like a longtime fan of this stuff. You're obviously like looking at it, and you really want to recreate that feeling of it, because there's so many times in wrestling games, like that feeling of the match, it just does not come through, and that's what I really love about this development, and what I like about seeing about like the videos that we've seen and everything is you're really trying to capture the actual feel and flow of a real match, out there. So, like that's the exciting part about it. So I love hearing you talk about like how much work went into that, and I think a lot of people should know that and appreciate how much work has gone into that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's the guys upstairs that that are working so hard on this kind of thing, and some of the stuff that they do is just mind-boggling in terms of like what they've managed to achieve, and but yeah, we needed to be that way for fans. I mean, I'm not making this because I want to suddenly be rich. This isn't going to make me rich. We're targeting the tiniest possible market that you could get of hardcore wrestling fans. We're not going for casual wrestling fans. We're not going for 100 characters. We could have, in the time that we've been doing this, we could have had 100 characters, but the 100 characters would have had the same movesets more or less, and they would have had very little uniqueness about them and stuff like that. But 100 characters sells better than 8 characters. It's a better marketing number. We wasn't looking for marketing numbers. We've made this because we wanted to make a game that we want to play, and that's because I'm a wrestling fan. I really want to play a game where limb damage comes into it properly, where you have told that story of you've worked a guy's leg and he's down, and he struggles to get his move, but then eventually he does get it, because that's the story in wrestling, right? It's that story of the guy overcoming the things that have happened to him, and that's really what we wanted to achieve, and I'm so glad that we have. The first time that I did that kind of thing, where I had my leg injured, and then I managed to fight my way back, and I tried my finisher, but it failed, and then I was on the floor holding my knee again, and then I got back up, and I fought my way through it, and then I built it up and hit my finisher, and when I finally hit it, I stayed down afterwards, because again, I was too tired, and it was just like, this is a proper moment here, and then when I stood up, I hit my power finisher, which, he puts a little bit more of an effort into it, so like he punches him in the face first, or he goes a little higher on the elevation, and it was really that moment of, this is a wrestling match. We have made a wrestling match here. This is what you would see when you watched Undertaker versus Michaels. You saw this kind of stuff. Taker hits the tombstone on the outside, goes down holding his knee, can't get up to capitalize on the tombstone on the outside. He goes for the choke slam, and again his knee buckles, so he doesn't quite get all of it. At the end of the match, Michaels is swinging his arms at him, and Taker puts that extra effort into the tombstone, and he gets it, and he gets the win. He pulls it off, kind of thing. It was all that kind of stuff that we wanted to capture. So yeah, all them little details is what matters to us. Circling back to your question, yeah, that kind of a thing happens all the time, in terms of you look at something and you go, that's going to take a week, and then you spend time really digging into it, and in fact it's not going to take a week, it's going to take a month. So again, it's all about managing resources and stuff like that, and seeing, is it worth a month to put that feature in, and if it is, then we're going to do it. So
Great.
You actually started to touch on the next question we have in your last one there. How do you see marketing challenges since you're producing a wrestling game that doesn't have real life stars in it? Obviously, like there's been great wrestling games in the past that have had like other people in it. Like for instance, like I remember like way back in the day, like Tecmo Wrestling and Pro Wrestling on the Nintendo. I mean, everybody remembers Starman that actually even became a wrestler in like some of the indie federations. So do you envision yourself like do you want to stick with like parody kind of thing? I mean, what's your marketing challenges that you foresee going through with that?
So I mean, for us, like I said, we're not really doing this so that we can pick the market in spots and go, that's what we're doing. I'm a long-term wrestling fan that has wanted something that's not there in wrestling games currently, and that means that there are other people like me that also want it. You know, they want the finishers that reverse into finishing moves. They want the limb damage system. They want characters that feel unique against each other. They want to play a match where ring psychology matters. They want this kind of thing, and I know they want it because I want it, and that's kind of where we're targeting. So anytime we see a feature that we've done that nobody else has done, we try to make that a big thing. Now, the difficulties that we have is obviously most games journalists are not wrestling fans. Or if they are, they're very loosely wrestling fans. You know, like, oh, I watched it 10 years ago in the Attitude Era, but I've not really seen it since, and I didn't really know it that well back then. You know, that kind of a thing. So when I start talking to them about a limb damage system, they kind of look at me boss-eyed, you know. But I know from the feedback that the wrestling fans want it. So it's all about showing them what the wrestling fans are saying, you know. And then they kind of understand that they just don't understand the demographic well enough. So they sometimes will pass me on to a guy that is a wrestling fan. So that's one of the challenges that we have is just getting guys in the media that are wrestling fans to pay attention to what we're doing.
That's us. You have our attention.
You do. You do. So, speaking of having our attention, you had my attention the other day because you actually answered my next question on the Facebook page. But one of the questions that I wanted to make sure that we asked for this interview was, could you describe the gameplay mechanics of how we access the staggering number of moves per wrestling system, per wrestler, and how that grappling system works? Because that's obviously been a big question for a lot of folks. Is how would that process look like?
Yeah, so the analog stick's obviously very important to what we was doing. The things that we wanted to tackle with the control scheme, there was some. When you play a wrestling game, you typically have to press a grab button, and then from a grab button, pick your move. So you will press up and whatever, and that will do the move kind of thing. So there's a 2-input process there, and what that means is that the guy who you're doing the move on, he has 2 chances to reverse the 1 move attempt that you give him. That typically ends in reversal after reversal after reversal, and the problem with that is that reversal animations are generally quite generic. They're stuff that all guys can have because not many games can afford to have thousands upon thousands of reversals kind of thing. So instead of seeing all the beautifully crafted moves, you see a reversal chain constantly, and then another reversal chain constantly, and then the odd move here and there, and that hinders your ability to form some kind of a strategy, because you might originally have been going for a DDT, but then you get reversed and then you reverse back, but now you're not in a position where you can do the DDT, so you have to do something completely different. We wanted to get rid of one of the stages in that system, so that you only had 1 chance to hit the reversal. That way, when you do hit reversals, they're more meaningful, more important. They don't just feel like something that you do constantly. So, we had that challenge. We also had the challenge of how are we going to do all these moves with just a 1-input system. So we picked up the pad and we was like, right, the analog stick's perfect for this. If you flick up, down, left, and right on the analog stick, on the right analog stick, you will do 4 different grapples. And if you click it in, if you're a heel, you'll do a dirty move, like a low blow or an eye poke or something. And if you was to then hold L2 or L1 or R2 and do up, down, left, right, you do another 4 moves. So, DDT is like up on the stick, and if you hold L2 and flick up on the stick, you might do Brainbuster. And that really allowed us to fit a lot of moves in, while at the same time getting rid of that all-important 2-stage reversal system. So we think it makes the flow of the match a little smoother, because you're not going reversal, 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 move. You're going move, move. You know what I mean? It's that kind. There are reversals, don't get me wrong, but you you see a hell of a lot more moves that you intended to do with our system than you do with the other system. So yeah, analog sticks was for grapples, and anything to do with grapples was there. The other thing that we wanted to tackle was sometimes you want to do the back grapple move. You know, you face to face with a guy, but you wanna do, I don't know, the reverse DDT. You know, you want to be behind him and do that move. So we was like, right, well, use R1 as the modifier for that. So if you hold at R1 when you're face to face with somebody and you flick up on the stick, your wrestler will do a go behind, and then fluidly from the go behind go straight into the back move. So R1 and up will go behind and do the reverse DDT. And then if you was to hold R1 and L2 and up, you would do a different back move. You know, you would go behind and do a different one. So you can access all front grapple moves and all back grapple moves from face to face and from face to back.
You know, that what you were saying about the two-step process, if you think about that in a current wrestling game, that's actually a three-step process for most games, in that you're having to grapple them, then you got to turn them around, and then you got to do your final move. So that's 3 opportunities to reverse in standard game, where you guys are providing just one. So I'm really excited about that feature.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about that from a new player's perspective as well, and I'm not talking about like new to wrestling games, but I'm talking about a new, our game's new to everybody. You know, you've never played 5-star wrestling, you don't know what the scheme is, kind of thing. You're coming in it for the first time, and you know, that's a 3-step process. Who gets that? You know, who gets that the first time round? That's there, and we've, like you say, we've got that down to a 1-step process. So we think that's nicer for new guys picking up the control scheme, and we also think that it's just that fluidity of, I can pick the move that I want to. You have control over your character. You don't have to do the move that's the scenario you've ended up in. Do the move that you want to do, because that's important in a wrestling match, because it's important because you have a strategy now in our game. So if you're using Curtis Angel and you want to attack the guy's legs, flick down on the stick. You're going to do something like a dragon screw. If you hold L1 and down on the stick, you're going to you know, do some other leg move. I can't think off the top of my head what he does there. But you know, be it a drop toe hold or something that's remotely, you know, we've tried to put all of the leg grapple moves on down on the stick, all of the head grapple moves on up on the stick. Left and right will do bodies and arms. Specifically for a guy like Curtis Angel. That's not necessarily true across the board, because not everybody's got the same amount of leg moves, not everybody's got enough to have one on every down, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
Because then if they did, then what's the point of Curtis Angel? You know, he can take you to pieces. So yeah, we've tried to add things like that in there, where there's a little bit of intuitiveness about that, kind of like the limb targeting system in the WWE games at the minute, where you hold a button and press triangle to attack the head and X to attack the leg, kind of like that system, except just on up on the stick. So
Awesome.
I hope this is the kind of stuff that you guys are wanting, right? I mean,
No, that's exactly. I mean, that's
exactly
what we're looking for, because this is really getting into what sets your game apart from every game that's on the market out there. And I think there are a lot of differentiating factors that you guys have built in to the structure. And one of those is you know, as you were saying, the kind of momentum system. And I know Dave had a question about ring psychology and the momentum system. So go for it, Dave.
No, I did want to throw out in this there quick, just as the guy who's not necessarily always into this thing, there's nothing more frustrating to a new guy coming in to play a game over at somebody's house or something than you go in to do a move and you get countered. You go in to do a move, you get countered. There's nothing more frustrating than that. So even for a guy who's not necessarily into the current batch of systems, that is even appealing to me, because, you know, I can actually do a move and actually possibly pull it off for a change instead of just getting countered or reversed or whatever. So that even makes it more attractive to people that aren't into the heavy core mechanics of it, because hey, I actually did that cool thing. That cool thing is going to hook me into trying to do another cool thing, and that's the kind of psychology that'll get new players in there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would hope that that's that's the other thing that we was thinking of. You're gonna play this on the couch at the side of your friends. If I have ever played a wrestling game with a non-wrestling game fan, it takes them ages to try and work out how to do some kind of move, because like I said, they've got to hit the chain grapple first, and then from the chain grapple, they've got to hit another grapple, and by the time they've even tried that, it's, they're just, and they're very clunky, and they're not sure what they're doing there. With ours, you pass the pad to somebody and you say, push that stick up, down, left, or right, and you're going to do a move, and they do a move, and it's instant and it's quick, and it's not like we've sacrificed anything for that. Some people, when they hear that control schemes have been adjusted slightly to allow for new players, think that you automatically have to give up something for the hardcore fans. But like I say, we've got more moves than just about anybody. I mean, maybe not the newest WWE game that had a lot of moves from the front grapple position when you factored in dizzy moves and stuff like that. But like you can do with some of our characters, you can do 46 moves from the front. That's a hell of a lot of moves. So for a guy to try and pick that up, if all you have to say to him is, oh yeah, just press up on the stick, and he's away with it,
That's definitely good stuff. My question was about, I mean, since obviously you're like lineage of fan stuff, you're obviously like the the ECW style, like crowd's obviously a big part of like that kind of wrestling. Does crowd factor into five-star wrestling at all? Is it something that you've kind of thought about in the game? Is it something that you like have in there? I haven't seen any mention really much about any kind of dynamic crowd or anything in the game.
Okay, so Five-Star Wrestling's original title was Empty Arena Wrestling.
So you're saying they're dark matches?
So the thing for us was, and we knew this right from day one. We knew we wouldn't have the resources to do everything that we wanted to do. Right? We're trying to fit loads of moves. What can we cut that nobody gives a crap about, that has no impact on the game whatsoever? What could we get rid of and not affect gameplay? And at the time, when I was doing it, I was like, the crowd. I've never looked at a WWE game crowd and gone, that's amazing. You see 10 guys in a row that are all the same person holding the same sign, moving at the same time, because that's how crowds are done. And I'm not criticizing that because that's better than no crowd. But if we wasn't going to be able to do a good crowd, I just didn't want to do one. I didn't want to take a guy off of the tired moves to put him on making a crowd work, and an art resource guy off of building arenas and things like that to put him on a crowd thing. Now, having said that, we have a thing that we haven't talked about yet, and I can't go into much detail tonight, but there's something big that we haven't announced that is coming, and it plays into the fact that we have no crowd. So if you imagine right now, and if you look carefully at any of the screens that we put out or videos, you might see rehearsal banners in the background. And there'll be like a thing that says it's a rehearsal, and that's because what we're doing is we're saying that this company is starting from scratch, and they are trying to nail the show. They don't have fans right now, right? But they have shows coming. They're trying to work the matches out, and eventually you'll get to the stage where there are hopefully crowds there that you can play with.
That's awesome.
Now, just so that you know, we still have crowd sounds, right? Because these arenas that we have are training arenas.
That's actually what I was going to ask.
Right? These are top of the range training arenas, and we was doing this before the WWE had the Performance Center, right? So this is what we was doing. We said, if you were starting a wrestling promotion with a crazy bankroll behind you, how would you go about doing it? And one of the first things that you would do is build this training center where you have realistic crowd simulation going on in the match, so that the guys that are training in the ring know what it's like when there's a heckler in the row, know what it's like when the crowd are against them, or the booing and the cheering and stuff. So we've got these speakers that are dotted around the arenas, and they look like propaganda speakers from World War. You'll see them in the and they're pumping the crowd. So that's how we get, with a crowd noise still. And I promise you, when you're playing the game, you're not going, man, they're in a crowd, right? Because you're just not. You're too focused on what you're doing in the match. And although it does make some of the screenshots look a little bare, I guess. So.
No, I think that's a perfect way to handle it. I mean, because honestly, you kind of are building a wrestling federation from scratch. So there you go.
That's it. So that's what we're doing there. But that goes right back to like your early question of managing our resources. If you was to ask any wrestling fan, would they sooner that we had a crowd or the tired moves? I'm sure they would select the tired moves. I'm sure there are some details in there that we could have gone the other way at, but that's what we chose. We had 3 artists on this project for half the project, and the other half we had just 1 artist.
Wow.
Cut us a little slack there.
Yes, absolutely.
That was actually the funny thing, because when I was thinking about it, I wasn't actually thinking of like a detailed animated crowd, because I could care less about that. But the actual crowd noise is something I was wondering if it was in there, because that's like something that kind of is part of a match. Like when you hit the big move, the big pop, you got to have the pop. So I was just like wondering if that kind of stuff's in there, where like the crowd is like, involves something.
Oh, that's definitely in there, and that's a really complicated system again that you would think would be a simple system, but we put a lot into that. So it's when does the crowd go up and down? When does it pop? When do they start cheering for somebody? So the concepts of momentum swing in 5-star is that when you've taken so much damage, you are ready to trigger a momentum swing. You don't get one automatically. It's not like there's an automatic reversal or anything. But if you hit a reversal, or you hit a move and you manage to cut the guy open, or you do something impressive, after you've taken so much damage, then the crowd will, get really behind you. But in the time where you're still taking a beating and you're ready to activate that, that's when the crowd are really going to get behind you. Because if you think about a wrestling match, that's when the wrestler on the mat starts going and stomping away kind of thing, or clapping and trying to get the fans into it. If you're watching an indie show, they'll do that a lot. If you're watching the WWE, they just instantly start getting, like somebody will put a sleeper on, and then, it's been down that long that the crowd have to get behind him, and that's when the babyface starts hitting the comeback. So it was important for us to get that in there with the crowd noises. So we've got you covered there, I guess.
Well, Dan, we know it's late, and we do appreciate your time. We've just got one more question. Matt's going to kick it off for us.
And this is, again, echoing Mark, we really appreciate you taking the time and getting into this. I actually am very interested in this, and again, understand and totally get the whole project management decision process you guys have had to go through. Making a game like this, when doing an organic replication in a digital environment, because you're describing a very organic system, and trying to create that in a digital environment's not easy. But just last thoughts. Your elevator speech, so to say. What's anything else you'd like to tell us about? What last words or closing would you like to put on this for the fans out there that are listening to this?
So I mean, for us, we are, as I would hope it's come through in this interview. We really are wrestling fans. I'm not just saying that because all of a sudden I'm making a wrestling game. This is all I set out to do. I've been on the wrestling game forums, like IGN forums, since I was, I looked on the profile the other day. I think it was 10 years ago I signed up to them forums and put a hell of a lot of wrestling ideas out there because I wanted to work on the SmackDown games ultimately. And I've been doing this for a long time. So I guess all I'm saying there is this really is a wrestling game made by wrestling game fans. We're trying to put as much effort in as we can. We're not a AAA game. This isn't going to have the slickest animation you've ever seen. It's not going to have the best graphics you've ever seen. Because, like I say, we've had 3 artists on the project, at most, and we didn't have the budget to do something really big, but we've pushed that budget as much as we could possibly push it, and we think we've tried to do as much as what wrestling fans would care about. So I guess we want to support the game after it's launched. That's really important to us. With Wrestling Manager, we had 8 or 9 updates in the first year. We added edit features where you can edit the entire roster. We added all these, mod tools. I think we was the first game on iOS to add mod tools via iTunes. We did it in like a safe way, so you didn't have to know any code or anything like that. So don't just think that what our release product is the final thing, because it's not. We are, we're going to throw so much extra at this. Everything that we get back, we're just going to reinvest in the game. So if you buy the game, you buy in the future, basically. I guess that's our pitch.
So Dan, where can people follow you on Facebook to find out more about the game?
Yeah, so we're at Facebook /5star wrestling. Logical.
You guys do Twitter or any other website or anything along those lines?
We're on Twitter. Again, at 5star wrestling. Wrestling Manager. You can normally get us on Twitter or Wrestling Manager. Likewise on Facebook. We have wrestlingmanagement.com, which is the website for Wrestling Manager. We haven't set a 5-star one up just yet, basically because we wanted people to come in via Facebook. We can. The key for us is that we want to interact with wrestling fans. We try and get back to just about everybody that emails us. There's a contact form on wrestlingmanagement.com. People can email us there and ask questions, or they can message us on Facebook, or they can ask questions on our links. We are easy to find if you come looking for us. Speaking of, I didn't know it was you the other day, by the way.
I actually I'm playing Wrestling Manager, and I had a small issue, and Dan helped me out personally, actually. So I was actually rather surprised that it was you emailing me back. So I appreciate the help.
The emails always come direct to me. I really need to know what people think about our games, and really need to be able to put their feedback into our future designs and future plans. So whenever somebody emails, I need to read it. Not just because as part of a job, because I really need to read it. Me personally, I feel like I have to read it, because then I know, hey, look, we've had 1,500 emails in the last 2 months saying create a character's needed. Well, you know what we need to work on? Create a character. And that's really important to us. So.
Well, great. We really appreciate your time. We know it's late. We'll let you get home, and keep it tuned to Gamer's Ledge for everything you need to know about 5-star wrestling. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Serious Parody.
Thanks for having us on. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.